If there was an unsung hero award handed out each and every year on your chronological birthday, an award to send recognition to the bodily system that puts up with the most crap and just keeps chugging along, 9 times out of 10, it would go to this mysterious 3-pound metabolic regulator by day, detox vigilante by night, and straight up workhorse of an organ. Drum roll, please. Thanks, production team. The liver. And let me tell you why. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Before we get going, if you are interested in joining our weekly challenges, where we focus on slow and sustainable change around the theme of longevity, check out the link in the description below. Now, as for that heroic internal masked vigilante rebelling against the poor habits of modern society to keep our bodies operating, today we're going to talk about 3 things that you should know to help your liver help you, aka do its job better, and by association, make you operate more efficiently. And yes, I can assure you there will be some, oh shit, that's actually pretty cool moments as we break down the Superman-like superpowers that this organ wields, but also a serious unveiling of this hero's kryptonite, or kryptonites, as we talk about what weakens and damages this super organ. So without further ado, let's let this modern day biological action film commence. Oh, and would you look at that? Production team has their eager face on.
That's his eager face.
You know what that means. It's gonna be a fun one. So a good place to start is probably touching on what the hell the liver actually does and why it's such a big deal. The liver's day and night job. This 3-pound mushy chemical filtering pouch actually has quite the job description. In fact, over 500 vital functions have been linked to the liver. Whoa, I know. Imagine what that calendar looks like. One of the reasons that it does so much is because all of the blood leaving the intestines and stomach passes through the liver before making its journey throughout the rest of the body. The liver processes this blood, breaking down, balancing, and recreating nutrients for the rest of the body to easily consume. It's the regulator of our glucose and lipid metabolism, a safe haven for vital vitamins and minerals, and it breaks down the oh-so-common toxins, both endogenous and exogenous, that make their way into the hottest club in town. Club circulation. Preparing them to be filtered out in one of 2 ways, by bile or blood. Bile, which is produced in the liver, carries these toxins to the intestines, setting them up for the ever so gracious exit out the back door, while blood byproducts are filtered through the kidneys, leaving as urine. And as you may or may not recall from this video, the liver is where we break down one of the most nefarious byproducts of cellular metabolism, the neurodegenerative associated protein amyloid beta. So yes, what happens in the liver does, in fact, affect the brain, and basically every other organ system too. The hero you never knew you had, right? So how can we equip this hero with all the tools it needs to operate as efficiently as possible for as long as possible? We talking some liver longevity today. So let's start in an uncommon place. Not uncommon to this channel, but not your typical health area of focus. Your liver's circadian code. Back in 2017, researchers in Switzerland documented something interesting. Using an animal model, they observed regular stretching and shrinking of mice's liver over the course of a 24-hour period. And this was happening at the cellular level, as the hepatic liver cells swelled in size and contracted up to 40% on a daily basis. This, my friend, is the liver's circadian rhythms in action. During the organism's feeding hours, for mice, that's at night, there was a noticeable increase in ribosomes, or structures in cells that take RNA instruction and use them to produce proteins. essentially ramping up the liver's resources so it was better equipped to do its job. And although it hasn't been proven, this is also thought to happen in other mammalian organisms as well, like humans. But there's always a but. There happens to be a very interesting catch to all this. A kind of hepatocyte kryptonite. The animals' livers only exhibited this agility when the mice followed their normal cycles of eating and resting. And if their eating habits were misaligned with their sleep-wake cycles, in a mouse's case eating during the day when they're usually at rest, their livers stubbornly refuse to grow. Yeah. This leads us to our first liver hack. Eat during the day and recover at night. If you've been around this channel, you know that our circadian rhythms, otherwise known as our daily sleep-wake cycles, can be one of our most powerful health-promoting assets when aligned. But as we've seen from many of our other chats, which I'll link in the show notes below, staying up into the wee hours of the night and sleeping all day, aka misalignment, can be one of the most health and longevity deteriorating things that we can do. This data is just another reason why. Our liver and its capacity to function to its true potential starts with our 24-hour routine. Wake time, bedtime, feeding time, fasting time. So the first liver hack is building good, consistent sleep and feeding habits. And these two videos, which will be linked below, go in depth on both. But in the meantime, here are some high-level guidelines to think about. Give yourself a consistent 8-hour sleep opportunity. Aim to be in bed by 11 p.m. each and every night. Consume your food in 10-hour daily feeding windows or less, and aim to finish your last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed. Animal models have shown that daily 12-hour intermittent fasting for 1 month significantly reduced liver weight in mice, which is associated with enhanced liver metabolism. Also, melatonin, our master sleep hormone and well-known natural antioxidant, has shown potential to be an important liver health modulator as well. Several studies suggest that it could regulate various molecular pathways that support liver health and function, and even be used in preventing and treating liver injuries and disease. And it's in its highest secretion and makes its biggest impact on our body when we have aligned rhythms. The power of strong Z's never ceases to amaze. Now, before we talk about the good to add, let's talk about some of the bad stuff to prevent. Prevent the damage. I gotta be honest here, we humans aren't great shepherds of our own pie. And if that's a new adage, you heard it here first. Production team, copyright protocol. We as a society do an overall pretty shitty job in putting our body in a position to win, aka operate efficiently. And there is a laundry list of reasons why that's the case, with plain ignorance potentially leading the race. But when it comes down to it, what we don't do happens to be just as important as what we do. So let's talk about some liver damaging habits that you need to know about. Now, all of these affect the liver in slightly different ways, but ultimately impair this heroic organ from doing its job easily, impacting its cellular function, creating a constant siege of stress, which damages liver cells, known as hepatocytes, leaving fewer and fewer available to handle the daily load, not only impacting the organ itself, but having downstream effects throughout the body, driving up inflammation, weakening the immune system, impairing nutrient availability and absorption, compromising arterial walls, and, like I mentioned before, impacting everybody's favorite 5-pound mushy membrane. Yikes is right. So what are some of the worst things that we can do? First, numero uno, over-consuming ultra-processed foods and drinks with added sugar. Here's why. The liver is our master energy regulator, and it's responsible for the creation of proteins and cholesterol that carry fat throughout the body. It's also one of the biggest storage spots for glucose, known as glycogen, acting as a reservoir for the brain and body in times of fasting. Now, Unlike glucose, which can be regularly absorbed and stored throughout the body, fructose, the molecule responsible for the sweetness and sugar, must be metabolized by either the intestines or the liver. You may be asking, why is this a problem? Because most of the processed foods on the shelves of the common ultra-processed food stores have a cocktail of added sugar in a form that contains fructose outside of its natural form, aka in real whole food. This can lead to a siege of fructose overflowing to the liver and elevating its markers of stress as it tries to process it all. And what happens when it can't be metabolized fast enough? It begins to be stored in the simplest, fastest way possible, on the liver, as fat. This fat accumulation damages liver cells and causes more of the aforementioned impairment of function. Yeah, and guess what? This condition is becoming so common, it even has a name and diagnosis. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. So replacing ultra-processed foods and added sugar drinks with real whole food is one of the best ways you can tell your liver you love it. Speaking of damage, some of the first and barely noticeable damage that is thought to happen in the liver is insulin resistance. This is the dysfunction of liver cells to the point where they become less responsive to the master energy regulating hormone insulin. And we break down the many issues of insulin resistance here. Essentially, this dysfunction lays the groundwork for metabolic disease over time. Another liver gotcha is unwarranted medications, both prescribed and over the counter. Remember, the liver regulates all chemical levels throughout the body. So when you consume a medication, it first needs to be passed through the liver, where its structure is most likely changed. And many medications taken over time can impact the liver in a suboptimal way, especially if it's something you're taking on a consistent basis. Read the fine print and understand the side effects. And lastly, we have excess alcohol. You know I couldn't forget about this one, right? Ethanol is the chemical compound in drinking alcohol responsible for its desired effects. This compound is exclusively broken down and metabolized in the liver, on average at the rate of 1 standard drink per hour for men and a little slower for women. And here's the thing, the liver can only do so much at once. So a constant siege of adult beverages is just a great way to flip your liver the bird. Or, as we in New York would say, hello. Now, this isn't to say you can't enjoy an adult beverage, but be strategic, space them out, hydrate in between, and show a little compassion for your unsung hero. Now, knowing what we now know, you can only imagine a scenario playing out where multiple of these aforementioned damaging habits are mixed. For example, taking a few Tylenol before a night out drinking sugary alcoholic drinks. That trifecta is not cool for biological school, and something I wish I knew in college. So if you're consuming alcohol, don't mix it with medication, don't mix it with sugary mixers, and get a little more strategic about it, or at least try. Okay, I think we covered the damaging enough. Let's talk about the support. The good to add. Hey, listen, there's some good news too. Just as you can obviously compromise your unsung hero, you can support it with what you consume as well. So here are some liver promoting foods, drinks, and supplements that can do just that. First, liver. Yeah, high quality, grass-fed, pasture-raised, or wild liver happen to be loaded with nutrients that livers need, thus making them sort of the ultimate liver food to have a few times a week. 100 grams or approximately 3.5 ounces of beef liver contains more than enough daily vitamin B12, which helps the formation of red blood cells and DNA, vitamin A, which is important for vision, immune function, and reproduction, riboflavin, or B2, which is needed for cellular development and function, and also helps turn food into energy, while also providing healthy servings of folate, iron, copper, and choline. And if liver isn't your cup of tea, you can have a cup of tea or coffee, which studies suggest have a disease-preventing protective effect on the liver, even among those who already have problems with the organ. Moving on, high antioxidant foods such as dark berries, citrus fruits, nuts, and vegetables have also shown protective effects. All of these work in slightly different manners, providing nutrients that improve liver function, lowering the risk of liver disease and cancer, leading to higher antioxidant and liver detoxification enzyme levels, reducing inflammation, and protecting the cell. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts have also shown to increase the liver's natural detoxification enzyme levels, protecting it from damage and improving overall blood levels of liver enzymes. Also, some healthy fats are another good option to add into the liver promoting mix. Avocados, olive oils, and omega-3s have been shown to be beneficial in modulating lipid and fat accumulation in the liver. And in many cases, they also add to the antioxidant parade. Two other key micronutrients include vitamin D and potassium, which have both been identified to be low in people with liver disease. And we remember just how important vitamin D in general is from this talk right here, right? These are just a few of the most potent liver promoting foods. And if you haven't noticed, there happens to be a little bit of a common theme here. They are real, whole, nutrient-dense foods, none of them being ultra-processed, highly refined, riddled with additives. Eating this way consistently is probably the very best thing you can do for your liver. Supplementation of a good multivitamin and maybe some vitamin D could definitely be helpful, but if you're not eating well, you can't expect the body to operate well, right? And when you mix this with proper circadian alignment, a little bit of daily movement, and a reduction or elimination of those liver damaging habits, aka its kryptonites, you'll be left with an internal superhero organ ramped up and ready to eliminate all the danger that sneaks through the streets of your internal city. So when you have a moment, award this unsung hero the recognition it deserves, maybe even Michael Scott Dundee style. And apparently all this superhero talk has encouraged production team to change into their costumes. I better go put on Avengers before a fight breaks out. I'll catch you next week.